So welcome to CSC220 Intro to Cyber. We are wrapping up the options to supplement your Module 1 solution results. And we had previously discussed standing up some virtual machines and then deploying your own version of DNS to provide some reliability and security, some stability and security in your own home network environment. There are two basic options, one that involves a Raspberry Pi, and the second that involves deploying your own DNS server. And essentially, what we have is a case where we can demonstrate one or the other. I did run into some snags earlier this week. As I was relating just a moment ago, we have some virtual systems that we use for other computer science classes. And these virtual machines have been plagued by hosts that are doing this kind of thing. Can everybody see my screen here at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do this much. I want to make sure I have everybody that's, yeah, I do have everybody that's joined. So this big red arrow is pointing to something that I like to call the evil, or the thing that shall not be named. Kind of like Harry Potter, where there was this really bad person, wizard, whatever, thinking it's Voldemort, one of those. And everybody would talk in hushed tones about the bad person, right? Well, this happened and played out this morning. And so I thought I would capture this as a teachable moment. There were students in the classroom. I powered on the classroom machine from a cold start, meaning the machine was just plain powered off, just plain powered off. And basically, within 60 seconds flat, this thing appeared and said, hey, this is a critical thing. You got to reboot your system. And so we proceeded to try to do some things, and because of the timing of it and how it hit, it was a challenge. Now, in my office here on St. Croix, I do have some virtual platforms, and there's a concept that's called network load balancing. And it's the kind of thing that you would do in a data center. It's not really what you'd do in the home, but I think we're approaching a point where we're going to have more than one of these in motion. And if we run into a problem because of reboots, what we're going to do is simply pivot and turn to another machine to achieve our purposes, right? There are some rather exotic results that we got from some of the solution submissions. And I'm still hoping that at some point before the end of September, I could consult with each of you if you're interested in upgrading or reconfiguring a portion of your home network. That's still an option. And so I'm here physically today on the campus. What we'll do on Monday is bring this stuff in, and if you can be around on the campus Monday or Wednesday of this next week, then I can issue you a Raspberry Pi that you can take home, or hand you a thumb drive and you load a virtual machine on a system in your house that's running DNS. And so those things are a reality. What I wanted to do though today was to kind of walk through the build process for a server that runs DNS. And one of two things will happen. I will either be able to connect to the system and open up a virtual box to start the process, or I'll run into a snag with the remote for the same reasons that you're seeing below. And if we run into an issue, what's going to happen is that over the weekend, I will repeat the process after the nasties have cleared, those nasty things that we won't talk about here. All right, so we will talk about it. What does this symbol mean down here in the system tray? Anyone?
You basically need like an update of some sort.
Yes, you need to post an update that's already loaded. So the update starts to post, and then it has to fire off. And the crazy thing is, I usually run updates faithfully. The fact that this jumped into play 1 minute into the class this morning, and then I was locked into Mortal Kombat. The last class, the first class cleared. The other students were coming in on the heels of the previous students. I never had a chance to reboot the thing until after the second class, and I was basically a little anxious that this thing would freeze or lock up or something. So once again, what we'll do before the course is over is examine how you can stage multiple copies or multiple systems, multiple servers, and those things can be used to, let me pull this down now. Where's my, there it is. No. I'm looking for my options to switch gears. There we go. So what we'll do is create redundancy so that when these things kick off, we'll have others in the mix. And that's part of the availability piece that's so good. In fact, you can have a virtual server of your very own that's running DNS, and it's dedicated to you and your family home network. And we could have that running forever. But you could also have locally a Raspberry Pi, which does the same thing and helps improve your reliability and your security. So what we'll do on Monday is make sure that we have all of these available. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do at this point is see whether or not I can access a machine to open up a virtual machine that's already been pre-built to go ahead and connect to that machine. So I'm going to be using a system called Google Remote Desktop, right? And you may have heard of this before, but if I have this done correctly, I see right here I have Sirius. Can everybody see the pop out that I just
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, the pop out I just expanded. All right. We do have some server grade systems. For those of you that are wondering what the heck I was doing, I'm running BitTorrent, microtorrent, and I'm doing that so that I can download a Debian ISO. It's a type of Linux, and Kali Linux, so I can work some forensics and some penetration testing and analysis, right? I'm going to go ahead and clear this from the system tray so it's not sitting there idle. So one of the microtorrent downloads didn't clear properly. I'll also go ahead and just quit OneDrive and then Teams, so that things that are running in the system tray won't cause a problem. And what I'm hoping to do is to open up Hyper-V and then run some systems. So here I have 3 different virtual machines. And so Hyper-V is like VirtualBox. And what we can do here is take a quick look at the settings to see where we are. This is a, let's see. I want to check to see that the hard disk is there so that we have a decent performance. Looks like we're good. It'll boot from a CD and then from the disk. So the virtual machine environment within Hyper-V, this is a version of Windows 10 Education Edition. If you have Professional Edition, Education Edition, or you have Server, you can actually install the Hyper-V role and then host lots of virtual machines. Hyper-V Manager is built into the professional editions of the client Windows operating system. And it's also a role that you can simply enable in Server. But what we're going to do now is just look to see if we have our disks where we think we do. And yeah, it looks like we have some disks. Now, we may need to run some updates and then get this staged where we can open this up. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll load Venus first and then Hermes to see what happens here. I want to check one more thing to see if I have any VirtualBox that's part of this environment. I'll just go to so if you'll notice on this machine, I don't see any references to VirtualBox. So I'm not using VirtualBox on this system, but all of the principles are pretty much the same. I'm going to go ahead and start Venus. And what I want to do is check a setting here on Venus as far as the network adapter. I want to make sure that it's pointing to the outside. That's the equivalent of bridge mode. So when you set up the network for a Hyper-V machine, you can set it up so that it's pointing to the inside or the outside. I want this to connect to the internet. Now that that's running, if I double click this, I should have this, and I'm going to go ahead and connect, or I have some real estate. Can everybody still see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodness, I hope I can remember. Wow. Woohoo! So let's see what kind of virtual machine we have. If I look at Venus, I'm going to go ahead and go to About. And I'm pretty sure this is like a Server 2019 machine. I can set up a brand new Server 2022 machine. Oh, this says Windows Server 2022 Data Center. So this is actually the high-end version of the server operating system. And the important thing here is that if you have data center loaded on powerful equipment, you can actually run many virtual machines inside here. So we could actually transfer this virtual machine into one of the platforms in my office and then fire it up. That would be a really cool thing to do. What I'm going to do though is see whether or not there are certain roles that are installed on this machine. After I determine what the network setting is. So if I look at the network setting and I look on the server at the network setting, what I should see here is that it's got a static assignment for the IP address. This is one thing that's very important. Whenever you implement a service or a server like DNS, you want that device or system to have a fixed IP address. What you notice here is that there's a public IP address for the university, 146.226.249.99. Everybody remember, .99, like Agent 99. This IP configuration for the virtual machine for the server is actually pulling to another machine, 123, that may or may not be working, okay? But there's an alternate DNS setting of 1.1.1.1. That's a Cloudflare address. If I look a little further at the DNS, there's a Google entry. So if the local DNS server I want to use or point it to isn't working, it'll go to Cloudflare and then it'll go to Google. Any questions so far? So you'll install the DNS role. After the virtual machine is running, you'll install the DNS role. You'll configure a static IP address on it. And in your household, in your home, you probably have a static for the gateway, right? What's most everybody's gateway? Anyone?
.1.
Yes, .1. Thank you very much. It's 192.168.0.1 or it's 192.168.1.1, right? And what you could do is you could say, okay, I'm going to take my Wi-Fi router and I'm going to tweak it a little bit so that the first few addresses are not used, or I'll check in my Wi-Fi router to see what IP addresses are assigned. And I might use the .2 address. I could use the .2 address. Now, for our demonstration purposes, we're going to leave this where it is. And one other thing I'd like to try and check is the name of this machine. Now, one of the important things about a server or service that's running on a device or a system is that you always want to ensure that it has a static IP address. When I say static IP address, I mean a manually assigned entered address. You just saw that. .99 was manually entered in there. It did not say, oh, just automatic, whatever, automatic, right? The other thing you want to do is make sure that it has a sensible name. In this case, I chose the name Venus. And because our solar system and our solar system and our planets are part of the Milky Way galaxy, I made it a part of the Milky Way work group. Now, I don't have an Active Directory domain set up, but I do have a local work group. And I'm not going to let the work group name remain the default name, which is work group. So there's a work group that Microsoft assigns every connected system to, and the work group name is work group. And so I'm going to make sure I put a sensible name on here. I make sure if it's a standalone server, because it's going to have a dedicated role. If it's not a part of a Active Directory domain, I'm going to put it in a work group. Between the name, a custom work group assignment, and a manually entered custom IP address, once those are ready, once those are in place, once that's been finished, of course, one thing you're going to do is run updates. So we were just talking about updates, and how ugly they are. They're evil. We don't want to even use that name. We don't even want to mention that word, right? if you were to go ahead and run the rest of your updates, then you would get all that out of the way, and that's important before you enable the role, before you implement the role. In this case, I'm going to implement the DNS role. So one more thing you ought to know, you want to make sure you're, actually a couple things, quick. You want to make sure that your license key is activated. You want to make sure that you're on the right time zone, because if you're not, that can throw you off. In this case, I'm going to enter the UTC, that's, I think it's Uniform Time Code. This is Greenwich Mean Time, right? We are 4 hours behind, that's why it says -4. We're 4 time zones to the west of Greenwich, England. So, which is, yeah. All right, so you might be a slightly different U word, but anyway, we can look that up. I'm going to choose Georgetown, La Paz, Manaus. That's in Brazil. San Juan. Oh, there's one I remember. We're in the same time zone as San Juan, Puerto Rico, right? So I'm gonna select that. I'm gonna hit enter, and now I should see the time zones in sync with my host. If you don't have a time zone that syncs, this is something we mentioned in our virtual, in our 1 credit tech virtual lab. You know, we have a 1 credit lab where we work with virtual machines. We talk about this a lot. We also talk about this in other places. If the time zone isn't proper, it's not going to work. And I have to hit OK. And you see it says Pacific. And I'm going to refresh this because I want it to read Georgetown, La Paz, Manaus, right? And my activation key for my license, my software license, is good. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to demonstrate very quickly how easy it is to set up and install the DNS role. So right now, this server is used to provide a website. IIS is the Microsoft equivalent of Apache. So basically, Internet Information Services is the equivalent of installing the web server role. If you want to have websites on this machine, you install IIS. We could remove that, but we're not going to. What I want to demonstrate to you is what we do when we're installing DNS. And it's actually pretty cool. What we're going to do is select the dashboard from the Server Manager dashboard. We'll click Add Roles. We'll select that this is a role-based or feature-based installation. We will select the name and IP address of our own server, Venus.99. We're going to select DNS. And the moment we select DNS, it says, hey, I need DNS tools. You're like, okay, all right, I'm going to add features. I'll click Next. I'll go ahead and accept the defaults here. I'll say next. I'll check the box that says restart if we have to restart, and then I'll say install. Now what we're watching here is that we'll say that this installed successfully. It should happen very quickly. And what you see here is it says installation started. Now if this runs slower, it could be that this particular server, virtual machine, the demo machine, it hasn't run updates for a while. Maybe that's running in the background, right? In fact, I could actually kick that off while I'm doing this. You would want to get this out of the way in the meantime, or before you install a role. And it's making me a little bit nervous. Oh yeah, we have all sorts of updates from a while ago. Yeah, I'm going to live dangerously. I'll go ahead and install now. In an ideal setting or an ideal part of the world, you would want to, again, you'd want to get all the updates out of the way before you make configuration changes. We're doing this for demonstration purposes, and when we set up your DNS servers, we're not using this DNS server. That is the only reason why I'm breaking the rules. Don't do this at home, kids, because something could go boom. But, and this morning, that's exactly what happened in class. Something did go boom while we were trying to finish the roll. What does it say here? It says installation succeeded on Venus. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to refresh this. And now you see the DNS is showing here. That means that this server is now capable of performing the role of a DNS machine, the same ones that are out on the internet. And this is probably the coolest thing you're ever going to see. So here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to set up the name resolution service on this DNS machine. I'll click a few buttons. It'll be running. Then I'll go into the network configuration and I'll change the DNS settings to point to this machine, 99. And I should be able to browse. So this machine is sitting, my host machine is sitting on something different. It's sitting on the IP address called 102. And right now it's using all these DNS servers. So what am I saying? If I get this stuff out of the way, if I move my virtual machine out of the way, my host machine is sitting on 102, the network address of 102. And it's currently configured to go out on the internet to use the 1.1.1.1 and 8.8.8.8. And I'm going to change that real quick, and then you're going to see that it's actually pulling correctly from this virtual machine. So this is what you're going to do in your home environment. Once the DNS is running, you're going to go onto your Wi-Fi router. You're going to put the number for the DNS from that machine into your Wi-Fi router. And that's it. And then, of course, you reboot, refresh, restart the service, right? So let's see how that works, and then we're done for the day. So in order to start this, I'm going to go into, see, there's my nasty thing. I'll go ahead and finish this though. If I go to Windows Administrative Tools, I should see DNS now. I'm going to right-click this and pin it to the start because I want to be able to do this, and I'm going to run this as administrator. Am I going too fast? Or are we good? Everybody good so far?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
So this is the DNS Microsoft Management Console. Very easy to use. I'm going to select Venus, and I'm going to go to View, and I want to view the advanced stuff in here. Because when people are surfing on the web, when they're doing their messaging, when they're getting on social networks, when they're browsing with internet browsers, right? If I want to see collectively what my users, all of them together, are doing, all I have to do is open up and look at the cache. And it'll show me the domain names they're browsing. Now, that doesn't tell me who is browsing. It doesn't invade your privacy, but it does give you a glimpse of something that's going on. So you can look at that. And in terms of cybersecurity, if you see somebody's always going out to a Russian website or a Chinese website, then you know that somebody's infected in your system. So it's a very cool way of getting an idea. Hey, something is wrong, and there are problems in Denmark, right? I think that's from a Shakespeare, something, trouble in Denmark, or I forget the quote. This isn't an English class, forget that Shakespeare. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to select the server name, and I'm going to right click this, and I'll configure a DNS server. I'll say next, and then I'm going to select the bottom option, which says, yeah, I want it to be my personal DNS server. So when I'm searching for stuff, I'm going to this machine. I'm not going to set up a domain name where I have my own web server and my own custom email. That's not what I'm doing. That would be if I did forward lookup zones and primary domain records and all that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do the root hints, and I'm going to say next and then finish. So now, if I restart this service, I should be cooking with gas. And that's what I'll do. I'll right click Venus. I'll go to all tasks and I'll restart the service. Now, once I do this, the DNS machine is activating. So Venus is loaded for bear now. How do I prove I've actually done the job? This is the coolest part. Let's go to our host machine and let's lobotomize our host machine. Now I have to be careful I don't saw off the limb I'm sitting on, because I'm finding this thing through a web connection across the web, and there's DNS dependencies, so I have to work fast. But what I'm essentially going to do here is I'm going to go into the DNS settings for the host, and I'm going to take them out for just a moment. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to say, okay, I don't want these. I'm going to take this out and this out. And this, what we'll say now is that I don't have a DNS server on my host. So what should happen if I try to browse without DNS working? Am I going to be able to like find Google or find other things? For added effect, I'm going to flush the DNS cache on this machine. I'm going to flush my DNS cache, ipconfig, flush DNS. Because if I have any cached entries for DNS, I don't want them to populate my screen when I'm trying to browse. So if I go here and I try to open up Chrome and I say, okay, that's me working. Can everybody see what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't go anywhere. I can't find UVI. Right? I mean, give me another website. Go ahead. Give me another one. Amazon.com. I can't find that one either. Right? You with me? Watch this. This is the cool part, and then we're done for the day. Again, over the weekend, I want you to tell me which option you'd like to implement. I'm going to change the adapter in here. What was the number I told you to remember?
99.
99. 146.226.249.99. I'm going to say okay. And this is on my host machine. Now, the funny part is the physical machine is running a virtual machine, and the physical machine can't find itself or anything on the internet without the service that the virtual machine is providing, right? And in order to be clear about this, I tried to search for Amazon and I tried to search for UVI and I got a negative result. That's stored in the cache now. So even though I have the DNS server running, my host machine thinks, yeah, those domains don't exist, and that's what's stuck in there. So one thing I'm going to do, one last thing I'm going to do before I open my browser again, is I'm going to repeat the command to flush the DNS cache. So the negative entries, oh, I can't find UVI. Oh, I can't find Amazon. See, your DNS is going to look in the cache for the last result. The last result was, oh, I searched for UVI. Oh, I searched for Amazon. And if it's already been negative, what happens is that it doesn't work. Now, why am I telling you this? When you implement DNS in your home, if you don't understand this, what you'll do is you'll connect your stuff, and then the first thing that's going to happen for some of your home users is they're going to say, oh, I can't browse the web. I can't do this. And you're like, relax, relax. I'll show you, right? And all you do is you like restart the device, flush the cache, do some simple things, right? So it gets a fresh pull. And now if I open up my browser, oh yeah, I'm pulling that from my own DNS server. Oh, let's go to Amazon now. Let's just see, is this really working? Oh yeah, I'm on Amazon. Now let's go back to the DNS server. Check this out. I go into the cached lookups. I go into root. I go into COM. There we go. It's showing Amazon. So I can go into the cache, I can see, okay, who's been doing what on the web. When I go into Amazon, it's not going to give me the identity. It's not going to show me the identity of the machine that pulled it. It's only showing the identities of the DNS servers out on the internet that are providing the answer. How do I find Amazon.com? So you can't backtrace this to a person in your home, and you don't want to. But you can still see whether or not something wonky is going on and then start your troubleshooting process. Okay, so what we've done today is we've demonstrated how you can set up very quickly a DNS virtual machine that you can run on a host in your home environment. Or if you prefer, we can run it here and let UVI pay the electricity. It'll run on a public IP address, and it can be your DNS machine. In addition, you can send me an email on Monday morning that says, yeah, I want to do that Raspberry Pi thing. You can implement one or the other. I want you to. Then I want you to go back to your solution in module 1, do the same quick tests and see if you don't get some different results because you're pulling your own clean, like Mr. Clean. You have your own genie in a bottle and nobody can mess with it. When your internet service goes down, half the time it's going down because the DNS is sputtering. Oh, you're not going to have as many DNS. You're not going to have as many internet outages if you have your own DNS with Raspberry Pi or with this method. This concludes our class for the day. Thank you for joining us.